In Midsomer Mere, a man with second sight is murdered. Seems like he should have seen that coming. We're talking religion versus science.
The history of precognition.
How to make Barnaby a believer in this episode of
Welcome to Midsummer.
Hello and welcome to Midsummer, the podcast where we dissect all the mysteries, the murders, and the many weird things about the long-running hit TV show Midsummer Murders. I'm your host, Eric Buscher, and with me as always is my co-host, Eileen Becker. Hey, Eileen.
Hey, Eric. We are talking about Second Sight, the 5th episode of the 8th series. It originally aired on January 23rd, 2005. It was directed by Richard Holthouse and written by Tony Etchells. Let's get in that Faraday cage.
Spoiler warning, we will be discussing the events of this episode, including the identity of the murderer. So if you haven't watched it yet and don't want to know who done it, pause this and go watch it. You'll still be here when you get back.
They look like electrical burns to me. There's 12 more across his scalp. Small traces of adhesive on the skin. There's also a phenomenal amount of alcohol in his blood. I've had the brain scanned, and the dark area looks like an embolism to me.
So we'll kill him.
I've never seen anything like it before, Tom. My guess is somebody got him drunk, stuck electrodes in his head, and deep-fried his brain.
It's nighttime at Midsummer Mere, and that makes it the right time for pub owner Jimmy Kirby to kick out John Ransom from his establishment. Ransom starts screaming about his head so much that people start to approach him, and Jimmy ends up having to grab him again. Ransom dies in his arms. Barnaby and Scott arrive on the scene. Bullard tells them that whatever fight Ransom might have been in, that's not what killed him. He died from a brain embolism. He also has electrical burns on his skull in a symmetrical pattern, showing that he was purposefully electrocuted. He was also highly intoxicated. So it looks like someone got him very drunk and then shocked him, and that shock could have triggered the embolism. Kirby says Ransom just went berserk, and that's why he kicked him out. Ransom lived in Lower Mere House, which was a former house for the insane. He lived there with his father, Dr. Gregory Ransom, and his brother, Max. Dr. Ransom says he hadn't seen John since the previous afternoon and isn't too broken up over his death. He says Ransom was well known for being a bit of a jerk. Max is the one responsible for John's shocks. He has been experimenting on his brother, hooking him up to a device in a Faraday cage which blocks electromagnetic radiation. Max is experimenting with stimulating alpha brainwaves in the hope of helping people develop precognitive abilities or second sight. Hey, where'd we hear that phrase before? Apparently, John had the gift naturally, and Max's experiments could heighten them. Needless to say, Barnaby is skeptical on this whole second sight stuff. Now, Scott finds a bag with 6,000 pounds that apparently John won from local bookie Lucky Lowell Tanner. Scott attempts to find Tanner, but his OTB is closed thanks to John's big win. Scott then talks to local priest Preachin' Pete Kubatsky, who struggles with having no congregation in a village divided between superstition and science. Emma Kirby comes into the church with her newborn daughter, Christine. Emma and her husband, Ben, are both religious and were planning to baptize Christine, but John was Emma's brother and had some objections. Now she wonders if they should postpone, but Preachin' Pete says the baptism might bring people together and that John's death might just be God's way. Scott goes to the pub, where Jimmy makes Scott think he also has some second sight when he correctly identifies Scott's tie without looking at him. Jimmy informs the detectives that he did not kill John. Jimmy's cousin Ben got into a fight with John and hit him. Jimmy also knows about the experiments, as he and a lot of other townsfolk have sat in that chair. But apparently the electrical shocks became so intense that only John continued to do the experiments. Jimmy also throws suspicion on Preachin' Pete, who tells them that John tried to stop the baptism last week. When the detectives pull up at Ben and Emma's, Ben sneaks out the back to hide. Emma tells them John wanted to stop the baptism because he had second sight and they didn't, and was worried it might stop Christine from having it. Barnaby is then running late for dinner with Joyce and Cully and almost runs over a man we have been watching obsessively track the weather and walk around with a shovel. The man looks at Barnaby and then runs away. When the lights in Lower Mere House start flickering, Dr. Ransom thinks Max is doing his experiments and goes to the basement to find him, but instead is pushed by someone down the stairs, causing his neck to break. Now, Barnaby is called back to the scene of the new crime. The front door was wide open, so anyone could have killed him, but they don't know if anything was taken. Barnaby finally gets to the dinner, where he finds Joyce very upset over Collie's news that she plans to head to Europe to travel around in a van and perform. Barnaby and Scott then head to Emma and Ben's house to inform her of her father's death. Max hides outside watching them. Christine starts crying loudly, and then Barnaby opens the back door just as Max is about to knock. Seeing the police, Max runs off and is then caught by Scott, which then stops Christine's crying. Max says he was out for a walk when his father was killed. Barnaby believes that Max used John's ability to clear out the bookie, and now he wants Christine for his experiments. Barnaby asks Scott to look into who would inherit the ransom's money, with Max in jail and John and his dad dead. The next day, Ben arrives at the school where Emma works, but finds the police setting up an incident room there. So he heads over to hide out with the man we've been watching the entire episode. Turns out that's Ben's brother, Lil Mal Kirby, a local recluse. Scott tells Barnaby that the 6,000 pounds he found is now missing. He also shows him that the chair in the cage had been rewired and would have fried whoever was hooked up to it. Interrogating Max again, Barnaby says that Max must have increased the voltage on his experiments, shocking anyone who couldn't guess the right card. And he suspects the voltage is what killed John. Max has no second sight and would have been incredibly jealous of John's gifts. Believing he is the likely suspect in both murders, Barnaby wants him held for the full 48 hours the law allows as they make their case. Tourist info. Welcome to Midsomer Mere, home of such locations as Easy Street, Fortunate Lake, and Ruination Close. No wonder they could support a home for the insane at Lower Mere House, because those names will drive you crazy. Be sure to bring an umbrella because it never stops raining.
Standing in for Lower Mere House is Brazier's Park, Ipsden, Oxfordshire. It's a Grade II listed building built around 1688 in the Gothic style. In 1906, it was bought by Valentine Fleming, the MP for Henley, whose son Ian Fleming lived at that house when he was young. Ian, of course, is best known as the creator of James Bond. Valentine Fleming sold the house in 1911, and in 1950, the house was sold to Norman Glaister, who set up the School of Integrative Social Research there. The singer Marianne Faithfull's father was an important member, and she stayed there for a time in 1967 with her boyfriend, Mick Jagger. In 2025, the school renewed their mission with the motto Soil, Soul, Society, dedicating themselves to a framework of ecological and spiritual consciousness. And it was also seen as Chetwood House in Market for Murder.
So we kind of have a strange kill this week. Technically, John Ransom is... We discover through the course of this episode that John Ransom is killed by an embolism that is caused by a blow to the head. But for a long period of time, they believe that the repeated shocks that he got inside a Faraday cage is what killed him. So Faraday cages are containers or rooms with specific shields to block out radio waves and electromagnetic pulses. Governments often use them in rooms when they need to have sensitive conversations, because it then phone signals can't come in or out. You can't really record stuff, that sort of thing.
And you can't nobody can spy into them.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, apparently Faraday cages would protect a brain from electromagnetic waves if you were in there, but it would not by itself affect brain waves.
No.
So, not sure why the people in the experiment had to be both in the cage and get shocked.
What's funny is that people think a Faraday cage is only used for scientific experiments or super secret things, but technically a lot of elevators act as Faraday cages when the doors are closed, which is why you can't always get a cell signal in an elevator, especially older ones.
Yeah. Well, no, what's really funny is that Max experiments were basically the opening of the movie Ghostbusters.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah.
So I know you disagree with me on this one, but I feel this episode is a little off. It does. I think it has a weird rhythm that doesn't quite work.
For me, it has a weird rhythm that does work. I like kind of the build-up, and we'll discuss this obviously in the second half once we've gone through everything. But I love the mystery of Lil Mal and this guy you're seeing doing all this weird stuff, and you don't know how he's connected to any of this until about halfway through the show.
See, and I find that off-putting because this is a guy that we're spending obscene amounts of time with, and we don't know why. And we don't know why he's behaving in such weird ways. But then we keep coming back to him. And it's like, every time we go back to him and he's not been introduced into the general plot, for me, it breaks the flow of the episode. Because I was like, why am I spending time with this guy? We have a murder.
Yeah. Yeah. I see it the other way. I see it's an intriguing clue that's slowly being threaded through.
I could see that, and if they did that with any other character, I would see that as a better way to do it. But Mal is the only one they do it with. We don't really see a lot of these characters unless they're being hunted by the murderer. We
Yeah.
don't really see these characters outside of their time with Barnaby and Scott.
But he is the linchpin for the episode. So I for me it works.
Well, he is the
Mm.
Mal ex machina.
Yeah. Yeah, he is the Malex Machina. Yeah.
Um, a lot of this episode is focusing on the second sight, the ability of second sight or clairvoyance, which is the defined as the ability to see things in the future or in other locations. For example,
Mhm.
if I could see sort of what's going on in, because Eileen records in a completely different space, if I could and she turned the camera off, second sight would allow me to see what she's doing over
Yeah. It's like when Jimmy says the preacher is polishing the candlesticks.
there.
Yeah.
He was. Um, the Kirby's, the family of the Kirby's, seem to have second sight, unless they find Jesus.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe, holy water acts on second sight as it does on vampires. Who knows?
Also, that would mean second sight really is something demonic. Oh, got Jesus in me, can't do it no more. A lot of this is Max's experiments in the Faraday cage. I found him to be a bit of a bland character, really just kind of like a psychotic mad scientist almost, more than any fully fleshed out person.
Yeah, he could have had a bit more kind of nuance to him. He just was kind of a little one note with the jealousy of and madness.
I mean, he is putting people through really intense electrical shocks for his
Mhm.
experimentation, to the point where like John had electrical burns
Mhm.
into his head.
Yeah.
That's some pretty high voltage.
Yeah.
Um, and he wanted to do that to the baby.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think we've all learned that there are a lot of psychopaths out there.
Guess the card. It's like it's a baby. It probably can't see clearly.
And it certainly can't tell you what it is. Doesn't even have a tooth yet.
So it's heavily implied that Christine, the baby, has second sight.
Yes, it does. Yeah. Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah. It is. It's yeah, I did find and actually did find this interesting because obviously this is a frequent theme on Midsummer, which is the tension between religion and non-Christian spirituality or the paranormal or religion and science. And this kind of goes with all three. We've seen it in Things That Go Bump in the Night, which is the first episode from the same season, which explored spirituality and clairvoyance. Death in Disguise explored New Age cults. The Electric Vendetta centered around crop circles. Talking to the Dead had religion and New Age spiritualism going head to head, like across the street from each other. We had Written in the Stars, which looked at astrology. Christmas Haunting looked at ghost. Incident at Cooper Hill examined UFOs. And The Witches of Angels Rise, looked at witchcraft. And those are just the ones that we have done so far. There are others. So this is a very, very frequent theme. In this particular one, religion is very much in third place in this race between the three of them, and science isn't faring much better. So,
although, I mean, one could argue that like religion and some people who are more atheistic or agnostic would probably argue that religion is just a more organized version of superstition.
Yeah.
Don't at me.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear it, people.
Yeah. Well, in the framework of the show, though, in the most episodes, skepticism wins out, but there's also, like in Talking to the Dead and a few others, there is a a little bit of maybe in there. And this has a definite big maybe as far as the second sight.
We'll get into that when we talk to Mal, because I had
Mhm.
some questions on that.
Mhm.
I will say is, if the baby really had second sight, why is she always crying around Max but not around the killer?
Yeah. I think because,
Or maybe the baby just did not like Max like everybody else.
well, yeah, I mean, Max is not likable, and maybe she senses a more overt threat from him, whereas at least initially she's not sensing a threat to herself from Preacher Pete.
You just spoiled who the killer was, Eileen.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Sorry.
oh, we don't have to do this. Oh, I'm done. We don't have to do the rest of this episode. I'll see.
Okay. Okay. Shall I
Sorry to
redo
do.
that?
Sorry to do all that work on your history corner, which we're not going to get to now.
Okay, fine.
No, I'm kidding.
So
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's fine. Just before we get to history corner, there was an insane amount of rain in this episode.
There's an insane amount of rain in England normally, and
There
it's fine,
is.
and it is nice, it is finally recognized.
There is, but they don't do it a lot. And I was like, they almost make up for 8 seasons worth of like not having a lot of rain
Yeah,
in this one episode.
yeah. It's like all those beautiful sunny days with the blue sky. That's not the typical English
No.
weather.
No. All right, why don't you take us into the history of precognition in your history corner?
All right. With silver spears you may conquer the world. So the Pythia, the oracle of Apollo at Delphi, is reputed to have said to one King Philip II of Macedon in 359 BCE. Philip then took control of the silver mines in nearby Thrace and Illyria and used the precious metal to bribe his way through Greece. While Philip was assassinated before he could vanquish any more foes, or bribe them, his son managed to conquer much of the known world. He has entered the annals of history as Alexander the Great. Precognition, also known as clairvoyance, second sight, sixth sense, telepathy, and ESP, has long been accepted by many as a gift that some people have been granted, either by a god or under certain conditions. It's a cornerstone of many religions, especially ancient ones. Judaism believes that some dreams can be prophetic, and dream interpretation is a major theme of the Tanakh, especially in the story of Joseph of the amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat fame. His interpretations of the dreams of the butler and the baker brought him to the attention of Pharaoh, whose dreams were interpreted by Joseph and allowed Egypt to prepare for a 7-year drought. In ancient Greece, the chosen priestess at Delphi, known as the Pythia, sat on a tripod near a chasm that exuded toxic gases and spouted what was often gibberish. Those ravings were then interpreted by other priestesses so that they made sense, often acting as political influencers along the way. Her prophecy to King Laius of Thebes that her son would kill his father and marry his mother is the driving force behind the Oedipus myth and Sophocles' tragedy Oedipus Rex. Throughout the ancient world, dreams and trance states were associated with foretelling the future, though even then there were skeptics, such as Aristotle. Those who were reputed to be able to see the future have been called oracles, prophets, augurs, soothsayers, seers, diviners, prognosticators, and fortune tellers. Other methods used to see into the future include astrology, augury, palmistry, numerology, runic divination, spirit boards, and tarot card readings. The I Ching, translated as the Book of Changes, is an ancient Chinese divination text in which people use bundles of yarrow stalks that are cast and used to look up the pattern of the stalks to a corresponding text. In many religions, God spoke through prophets to reveal their will and issue warnings about the future. Zarathustra spake for a single supreme being, Ahura Mazda, as he founded the ancient and influential religion of Zoroastrianism. The God of the Jews used numerous prophets, including Isaiah, Miriam, Samuel, Ezekiel, and Moses, as his way to communicate. Christians look to many of these prophets, as well as John the Baptist, as important figures who foretold the arrival of Jesus as the Messiah. The Christian Bible ends with a prophetic fever dream of the apocalypse in the book of Revelation. Islam, along with Christianity, regards Jesus as a major prophet, though Islam considers Muhammad as the last prophet for whom the divine word of God was revealed in the Quran. Joseph Smith is also considered a prophet by the Mormons. Prophets have also been revered in Native American religions, including Tenskwatawa, the Shawnee prophet and brother of famed warrior and chief Tecumseh. One of the most famous seers in history is Michel de Nostradame, known under the Latinized name of Nostradamus. A French astrologer and seer, his 1555 Book of Prophecies is still read today. Supporters often claim that he predicted the Great Fire of London, the French Revolution, and the rise of Napoleon and of Adolf Hitler. The term fortune teller arose around this time, and prophecy and prophetic dreams were often used in the plays of William Shakespeare. Macbeth's weird sisters are probably the most famous of his seers, and there's the soothsayer who warns Julius Caesar to beware the Ides of March. But even Romeo claims to have had a prophetic dream before going to the Capulet ball, a prophecy that was mocked by Mercutio in his Queen Mab speech. Romeo has another dream during his exile in Mantua, in which he says, "I dreamt that my lady came and found me dead," which certainly does happen. Sorry to spoil Romeo and Juliet for people, but they spoil it at the very beginning anyway. Will has certainly not been the only writer to use prophecy as foreshadowing. Fantasy series such as The Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter use prophecy to drive their plots, while A Song of Ice and Fire often seems to thwart the prophecies that the characters believe. In science fiction, prophecy often takes the form of a causal loop, such as in the movie 12 Monkeys, where the protagonist cannot change the past because his actions as a time traveler help set the events in motion. Prophecy in literature and film is often used to explore ideas of free will, fate, and predestination. Romeo may cry out, "Then I defy you, stars," but his actions end up fulfilling his own prophetic dreams. The first two Terminator movies contain a causal loop when a circuit from the destroyed Terminator from the first movie sets in motion the development of Skynet and the nuclear annihilation that leads to the Terminator being sent back in time. In Philip K. Dick's novella, The Minority Report, 3 precogs are used to predict criminal acts before they take place, exploring the idea of free will. Each precog predicts the 3 stages that will occur, leading to the protagonist to commit murder. Science turned to the study of precognition in the 1930s, when J.B. Rhine and his wife Louisa E. Rhine of Duke University used cards developed by psychologist Carl Zener to conduct experiments into what they called extrasensory perception, or ESP. This was a simple experiment where a sender looked at the cards while the receiver tried to guess the symbols. The study was soon criticized for being faulty and biased, and the Rhine's findings have not been replicated in numerous rigorous studies. Skeptics such as Harry Houdini and James Randi have exposed many fortune tellers as frauds, though more modern seers or psychics such as Aleister Crowley, Edgar Cayce, Jean Dixon, and TV's Miss Cleo continue to hold the public's fascination. Many continue to believe in various forms of ESP, precognition, prophecy, or fortune-telling. Tarot and astrology remain popular, and palm readers and crystal ball gazers are popular at fairs and festivals. Many fundamentalist Christians await the prophecy of Revelation to come true. Many want to believe in fate, others are determined that they are the captains of their own boats. As Ludwig von Beethoven said, "I will seize fate by the throat. It shall certainly never wholly overcome me."
Can you see the future, Eileen?
No.
So you can't predict what I'm about to say to you next?
I can never predict what's going to come out of your mouth.
Oh, I was going to say, do you want to do the next thing in the script, which is the cast highlights? Oh, well, second sight isn't real, folks. You heard it here first.
Our cast highlights. Joe Anderson played mad scientist Max Ransom. He's a Midsomer legacy because his dad is the actor Miles Anderson, a return visitor who appeared in Death in Disguise and Last Year's Model. Joe has appeared in the film Control, playing New Order bassist Peter Hook, as well as Across the Universe, Twilight, Breaking Dawn Part 2, and Horns. Will Keane was our preaching Pete Kubatsky. He studied at Eton and Oxford and has appeared in Wolf Hall, Sherlock, and New Tricks. He also appeared in the miniseries adaptation of Philip Pullman's His Dark Materials, starring his daughter, Daphne Keane. Tom Frederick played On the Run Ben Kirby. He's appeared in The Oxford Murders, Casanova's Love Letters, and The Bill. He wrote and directed and starred in the horror short film Sauna the Dead, a fairy tale, about 2 men who have to fight the undead while all of them are wearing only towels. I have got to check that one out.
Yeah, it sounded like something you'd want to watch.
Alexandra Moen was the ultra-religious Emma Kirby. Moen has appeared in Tripping Over, Hotel Babylon, Dickensian, and Fortitude. She used to sing in a group called Kiki Neon, but it doesn't look like they are still together. Sean Chapman played the tricksy Jimmy Kirby. Chapman started acting in the 70s, appearing in films like Scum and Passion Flower Hotel. He played Frank Cotton in the films Hellraiser and Hellbound, Hellraiser 2, but he had all of his dialogue dubbed over by another actor in the first film. He worked steadily until the mid-2010s, where he transitioned to writing. He has 4 books currently available. Bill Stewart was Lucky in Love Lol Tanner. Stewart appeared in A Touch of Frost, Edge of Darkness, Z-Cars, and MacGyver. This episode was one of his final performances as he passed away in 2006 of motor neuron disease. Wanda Ventham played Tanner's lover, Romany Rose. She was in Only Fools and Horses, UFO, The Sweeney, The Avengers, and 2 Carry On films. She's married to the actor Timothy Carlton, who we talked about when we did Secrets and Spies. The pair of them played Sherlock Holmes' parents on the show Sherlock, which was easy casting as they are the real-life parents to Benedict Cumberbatch. The UFO Easter eggs in this episode are an homage to her character in that show.
Which show? Oh, to UFO? Okay.
UFO, yeah.
What UFO Easter eggs?
There's some mention, she opens a newspaper and there's a little ad for some kind of UFO thing and stuff like that.
Oh,
There's just, they're small, they're quick, and they're just, you wouldn't notice them unless you were knowing what they were there for.
Gotcha.
That was something on IMDb that I had not recognized, but, somebody pointed it out. James Hoare played, not in this episode very long, John Ransom. This was his final on-screen role, and he only acted for a couple years, appearing in Casualty, Waking the Dead, and Kerching. We're not really sure what he is up to now, though.
There's a few James Hoares. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, I'm sure a few of them are athletes because they sound all like soccer player, rugby players, or football players, actually, I should say. Imogen Holthouse was the young Emma in the flashback. This is her only on-screen role, and it looks like she's now a headshot photographer in London. Aaron and Lauren Oliver share double duty playing the baby Christine Kirby. Looks like the acting bug didn't bite them as babies.
Yeah, there's no other credits for them.
Yeah, maybe because they got scared of the guy who played Max.
Maybe they just had some of those parents that were just pushing their kids.
Or maybe they were just convenient twins.
Yeah. Only one return visitor this week, Jeffrey Whitehead. He played devoted father Dr. Gregory Ransom. We will see him again in The Flying Club. He appeared in Peter the Great, Reggie Perrin, Z-Cars, and The House of Elliot. He has a distinction of being one of the only actors to play both Sherlock Holmes and Professor Moriarty. Now, he played Holmes in a BBC show Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson, and he played Moriarty in a BBC radio program. He also appeared in Lee Mack's long-running sitcom Not Going Out from 2011 to 2023. There are no... As for all the hangers out at the pub or whatnot, no one's put any uncredited roles in anything for this episode. So, thank you for your service. And that leaves our village star this week is Owen Teale, who played reclusive precog Lil Mal Kirby. He's also credited as playing young Mal in the flashback, which is basically just Mal in a bad wig. Teale is from Wales and studied at the Guildford School of Acting. He's been working professionally since the 70s, and he's appeared in Doctor Who, Conspiracy, Line of Duty, and A Discovery of Witches. Many people recognize him as the manipulative and deadly Sir Alistair Thorne, a real thorn in the side of Jon Snow in Game of Thrones. He also won a Tony Award in 1997 for his performance in Ibsen's A Dollhouse with the great Janet McTeer. Fun fact, early in his career, he was a children's entertainer at a pleasure park.
I can see that. I mean, he's so evil as Sir Alistair Thorne in Game of Thrones, but he brings a lot of nuance to this role.
I only just recognize him for things like Game of Thrones and Line of Duty, where he's like the bad guy.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to see him in something where he is a little more nuanced, more of a nice guy. He had, I mean, his was the showiest of roles.
Yeah. And I very much enjoyed him in the role. He's the thing that for me, he's my mnemonic for this role. When I do my grid and put in a mnemonic for each episode, he's the one that I put in for this.
You put in like wig?
Lil Mal Kirby.
Lil Mal.
It's very Southern. It's very Southern or very rap.
He's going to have a TikTok rap career. It's Little Mal, Little Squirt, Little Uzi Vert. By the way, none of the people listening to this podcast know any of those people. We're going to take a quick break here, and we'll be back with the second half of Second Sight.
Right, Jimmy. You tell me what I got. 3 of diamonds, 9 of clubs. 4 diamonds. 9 diamonds. Queen of clubs. Ace of spades. Now, see, what are the odds against that? Go on, do it again. Do it again. 2 of hearts. How's it done? Buy me a drink, I tell you.
Well, you tell me a second sight, won't you?
No. But I will tell you. There's a bloody great mirror behind that bar.
And we're back. Let's talk about the second half of Second Sight.
What are you praying for, Mr. Kubetsky?
Forgiveness.
For they know not what they do. But you knew exactly what you were doing, didn't you?
No, forgiveness for you.
Oh,
I'm praying for all those who, through stupidity or ignorance or lack of faith, stand in the way of God's work on earth.
Emma comes to the incident room at her school to ask the detectives to help protect Mal. Turns out Mal has second sight as well, and Max wants to experiment on him too. They go out to his place, and when Ben sees them, he runs out the back. Mal tries to hide, but Barnaby walks right in the back door. They try to ask him about Ben, and he says he was here, but is gone now. They kind of smugly ask him about second sight, and Mal barks at him that it's not a joke, and he chooses not to use his. Well, all of this second sight stuff is frustrating Barnaby, so he sends Scott on a mission to gamble with Jimmy to see if Jimmy's second sight is real or fake. Meanwhile, Barnaby goes to Preachin' Pete to ask him about his congregation. Now, Pete had success in building congregations at other churches and has faith that the baptism will bring people in. He mentions that Mal has not set foot in the church for over 20 years. Later, Pete will get a letter from his superiors telling him that, surprise, he's been reassigned. And then Ben tells him that they're going to call off the baptism for now. Barnaby goes to the pub and watches Scott lose a big poker game to Jimmy. Barnaby decides he's going to test Jimmy's second sight by having him guess what cards he is holding up. Jimmy gets them all right, but he admits he uses the giant mirror behind the bar to help him see things. And returning to Coston, Bullard tells them that John did not die from electrical shock. Someone just straight up hit him in the back of the head, which caused the blood clot. That means they have to let Max go. Barnaby realizes that because the second sight runs along the Kirby line and not the Ransoms, John must have Kirby blood in him, which would explain why his dad hated him so much. Emma says Max knew as well and that John had been upset that they asked little Mal to be the godparent. She explains that when she and Ben were children going to the same school, Mal saved all the kids in their classroom from being crushed by a runaway army truck. This led her mother to have an affair with little Mal, and John was his son. Barnaby leaves and Max watches the house, causing Christine to start screaming again. But someone sneaks up on him with a heavy branch, and Christine stops crying. Mal explains to Barnaby that he had a vision of the truck, and that's how he managed to save the kids. But his gift is so powerful, he actually managed to see the moment of his death, which will happen in the doorway of the church during a storm. He also foresaw his encounter in the road with Barnaby and knows that his end is coming fast. Scott tells Barnaby that Mal is the beneficiary of the ransom money, and Max has been found dead. As the detectives drive, they pass Tanner and follow him to the van of the local palmist, where they locate the missing 6K. Tanner says he took it from the ransom home while the doctor and Max were arguing. At the station, Ben finally comes to Barnaby, not to turn himself in, but to tell them that Emma and Christine are missing. They find no clues at the home, and without any leads, Barnaby goes out on a limb and tries something new, asking Mal for help. Mal doesn't want to use his sight, though, and takes them to Jimmy so he can help. But Mal realizes that Jimmy is kind of a douche, so he begins heading straight to the church, where it is revealed that Preaching Pete has Emma and Christine and is preparing to have the baptism against their will. Mal and the detectives find themselves locked out, but Mal manages to pick up a gravestone and use it as a battering ram. He gets the door open, but is immediately struck in the back of the head by Pete and falls to the ground in the exact manner of his vision. Pete then attacks Barnaby, but is eventually subdued by Ben and Scott. Emma and Christine are freed and saved from the dreaded baptism. They question Preachin' Pete at the incident room, and he is unrepentant and clearly out of his mind. He feels that he has been doing God's work to get the devils out of the heathen village. What set him off was John Ransom's visit to him last week. When he failed to persuade Pete to stop the baptism, John used his sight and told Pete about the letter coming. This caused Pete to actually believe in superstition over his own faith. It may have been just for a moment, but it was too much for him. So he killed Ransom by sneaking up on him and hitting him with his candlestick. He used his basic electrical knowledge to rewire the chair in hopes of killing Max, but killed Dr. Ransom instead when he was discovered. He killed Max to protect Christine from him, so some good did come from this. In the end, he is arrested, and Ben and Emma will still baptize Christine, but they're going to do it their way. Tanner and the Palmas drive off into the sunset. Barnaby and Joyce take Cully to the train station so she can go on her adventure, where they are met by Mal, who is still alive, and he knew that they would be there. He gives Barnaby his shovel, which he has been carrying for some reason that is never actually explained. Although, Eileen, you think he gave him the barometer. We don't know. It's all packaged up, and who knows?
Well, it's the shape of the barometer, yeah.
It's also the shape of the shovel.
Well, no, not really, because the shovel's curved,
It's a flat thing.
Yeah, barometer-shaped flat thing. It's not long and
it's
narrow.
A big square. It's a big square package. Like, you're not gonna like.
It's barometer-shaped.
I don't know. I don't care.
Because
nobody opens it anyways.
It's a sign that he no longer is refusing to use his second sight, and does no longer needs the barometer to predict the weather.
We'll get into that in a second. Our killer this time is the Preachin' Pete Kabansky, who does not like superstition, science, or palmists. As a priest, he actually tells Emma that her family's death was God's work.
That's kind of creepy.
Yeah, well, he also called Emma his at one point, which is also, he was, this is again one of those cases of a character who is clearly out of his mind, but shows no regular outward symptoms until they just, start going crazy.
I don't know. I think they kind of build up to his craziness on this one. It's seeded throughout. Yeah,
I don't see that. I
did see it. Yeah.
Although I will say he is a grown man who called himself Preachin' Pete.
Yeah.
Which probably was that your clue?
That was certainly one of them. I mean, just the way he talked about the village and his savior complex that he had, he was clearly a little crazy.
Also, when he is busted, he asks God's forgiveness for Barnaby busting him.
Yeah.
And stopping the baptism, which I thought was, again, unrepentant and a little nuts.
Yeah, we know people just like that in positions of power right now.
Yeah. The fight to stop the baptism is straight up a plot from The Simpsons.
It really is. Yeah. Everybody steals from The Simpsons.
Simpsons did it first.
Yeah.
So they question him in the incident room in the school, and I just really want them to all be sitting in tiny chairs. Mal is, as we keep talking about Mal, he is the centerpiece of this episode. He is the central character. He is gifted or cursed with second sight, however you choose to see it, but he does not use it. He chooses not to use his second sight because at one point he foresaw his own death,
or what he thought was going to be his own death. Yeah.
But it does mean that at some point that's where it stopped. And he's did he just see himself fall down? I can't look anymore? Or that's where his visions just no longer, his visions just, no, we're going to stop here. And then the rest is a surprise.
I think it freaked him out so much that he just literally kind of stopped at that point to say, I can't know this anymore. This is freaking me out. And that's when he became reclusive and he stopped using the second sight for anything, because apparently he was using it a lot like Jimmy was to, bet on things and, play the ponies.
But Jimmy didn't have second sight.
No, Jimmy's a fraud.
Yeah.
Mal is not. Yeah.
Mal is not. So we spend the first half of this episode not knowing he is, but we watch him in his weather experiments, his digging, his encounter with Barnaby. And I feel like we don't really get an explanation about why he's doing any of those things.
Well, the carrying around the shovel is kind of a mysterious thing. I don't know,
But why is he obsessed with the weather? Is it just because he's worried about rain?
Well, yeah, because he knows that there's a storm that the scene he foresees of him dying happens in a very, very bad storm. And once
True.
he sees that, once he has that encounter with Barnaby, which he knows is a harbinger of what's going to come to what he thinks is his death, he also knows that there's a big storm coming. So he has to be prepared for all of those eventualities. That's why he freaks out so much about Barnaby almost hitting him. It's not because of Barnaby almost hitting him, it's because he foresaw that as a harbinger. Yeah.
But that's the thing is, I do think it hurts the episode that we never actually see this vision. I think it really, because then we are left, we don't actually know what this vision is.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't really know. We wait for him to explain the importance of these things, of why he's doing what he does. But for example, he talks about foreseeing his own death. Well, he doesn't. He just sees himself getting knocked down.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes you think, is he seeing these things in fragments? Is he able to see these things in large, almost like watching a movie? Because he said he sat there and just looked into his own future as far as he could go. But I don't know, we don't really get we don't really see how that works. We don't get any kind of visual. I think at one point we actually see him talking about what's going to happen to him in a church, and we see him on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
We never actually see the full vision. So I feel like if we had seen at least some of the vision, it would have given, is he carrying the shovel only because he's carrying the shovel in the vision and he has to, you would think that if he could see that far ahead, he would at least know what day it's supposed to happen.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't personally need to see the vision, but I can see why kind of having that instead of him explaining it, having a flashback of him sitting on the bench in the park, whatever, and kind of having that flash, kind of intentionally looking as far forward as possible. I can see that could have been a nice addition to the episode.
I think it would have helped. I think it just would have helped set things up a little better. I think it would have helped, because again, the second sight just seems to be, it's whatever they want it to be. Because he's so adamant that he can't help them. Doesn't want to use his second sight, but he clearly knows if he's used his second sight, what's going on. He takes them to Jimmy, but if he has second sight, he knows Jimmy does it.
Yeah.
So why is he taking them to Jimmy? Why that whole 52 pickup scene in the first place? They use it sort of sporadically. And they don't explain what he means. I don't use it. Is it a light switch? You turn it on or turn it off? Because my understanding was these things just come to you. So I feel like because they just have him do it, it's just this random collection of we want to see him use these cool second sight powers, but it's if he's used his second sight enough to know that he's going, he might know why doesn't he know that he needs to go directly to the church? I'm assuming he would have realized he needed to pick up that headstone immediately to use it for the door. So that's where I guess having a vision, or maybe kind of explaining more how it actually worked. Look, the second sight gives me the possibilities of the future. That's how I was able to save the kids.
Yeah.
It's not, you're not in a causal loop.
Yeah.
Right. So if we could see the vision, and then we could see that there's something different, it would explain oh yeah, he didn't die, even though this is the exact same thing that he saw.
Well, I think that is the big question of foresight, if it does indeed exist. Is it something is it fate? Is it something that is immutable? Or is it something that can be altered? When he saw the children in the school getting hit by the truck, did he see himself rescuing them so that, and that's how he knew what to do and how to do it? Or did he see them all dying? But we don't know that about anything, I mean.
But but that's just it. The only way they solve this case is because Mal takes him to the church, and the only reason Mal goes to the church is because he has second sight.
Yeah.
There is no other reason for them to go to the church. They're not really playing, is it second sight or not second sight? They are basically saying, no, there's second sight, he has it, and that's what solves the case.
This is another one where they don't solve the case, someone else solves it for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if they're going to establish that it's real, they could at least give us a little bit of like how it works and all that stuff. Otherwise, it doesn't feel fully. It just feels very not thought through, and so a lot of stuff doesn't make sense.
No, for me it does makes sense, but I do think that it could have been a little more fleshed out. This is why this is, for me, it's not an A episode, it's a B episode. They use Mal as they did the character Tom in The Green Man, which is one we haven't talked about yet, but he is this kind of mysterious figure through a large portion of the episode. There they start with a flashback scene. Maybe if they had started with a flashback scene rather than the murder, of young Mal sitting on the bench looking into the future or whatever. Or if they had started with him like, it may have been
brought him in earlier.
Yeah.
Because he's a Kirby. He is a family member. Like, they could have brought him in earlier. They keep him out. They keep him out of like basically the first half because again, once you put him in, he solves the case. So you need to keep him out for the first half.
Yeah.
But logically, like, he would be a suspect anyway. They would probably like, oh, we need to talk to this person too. Logically, keeping him out doesn't quite make sense. Like, I think if
you're wanting logic in a Midsomer episode?
Well, they have to, like, the best Midsommers have their own logic.
They do have their own logic, yes.
Like, they are setting up, I'm just pointing out that they've set up this premise and then don't seem to really want to explain it or show how it works, and just leave because you can't, because technically they kind of want to gloss over the fact that Barnaby doesn't solve it. Because at the end of the day, what this means is Barnaby and Scott didn't need to be there. Because technically, Ben and Little Mal could have saved Emma and Christine without them at all.
Yeah.
And Little Mal could have also used his second sight to figure out who the killer was a lot sooner if he didn't already know, which means Little Mal was sitting on this. You see what I'm saying? Is like, they've established that it's real. Once you establish that it's real, then all of a sudden Little Mal isn't doing some stuff that, because again, we don't know how it works. We don't know, can he turn it, like, how does, like, I don't use it. I was like, what does that mean? Like, if you feel a vision coming on, you blank it out. That's where, like, for me, it's just like, well, if he has it, why isn't he like, he's supposed to be the good guy. Why isn't he doing any of this stuff? Because again, that's his sister and his godchild, and his son is murdered.
Yeah.
His son is murdered. And he does nothing about it.
Well, one thing they also don't explain is if he knows that John Ransom was his son. So
he has second sight, one would assume.
One would assume.
Because he stopped using it, what, he said 20 years ago?
Yeah.
John Ransom was older than 20.
Yeah. That is true. Yeah. Though it's weird because the timeline seems a little off on the 20 years because,
and Ransom knew that Mal was his dad, because that's why he's so upset that this guy's going to be the godparent. Right? And we can pretty much tell that if Max and Gregory knew that John wasn't there. Also, again, if Barnaby could figure out, like, within 24 hours because of the second sight, then John should have been able to as well. Like, it see what I'm saying? Like,
I get it. Yeah, for me, yeah. I do think that there's some, and this is when they were doing 8 episodes, a season, so 8 movies, a season. If they had spent a little bit more time thinking through some of these things, I think it would have been a stronger episode.
That's what I'm saying, is like, if they're going to establish that it's real, establish that it's real.
Yeah.
You can establish it's real and still have Barnaby not believe. Right?
And solve the case.
Yeah. But because they establish it, and then because they have little Mal running around, and it's like, well, wait a minute. Why doesn't he, like, if he's got second sight, why doesn't he know this stuff? Because we spend a lot of time with Mal where we don't know who he is, and we're just watching him check the weather, like, over and over again. We're watching him dig and walk around and all that stuff. That's all fine. But a little context and explanation and setting up, I think, would have. I think the first half of this episode should needed a little less of us just being vague about Mal and more being, let's be really concrete about Mal and set up how second sight really works. So then, because it's like, again, if he's picking up 52 cards and like that's a diamond, that's this, like, it's pinpoint accuracy. So he should know who the killer is.
Yeah.
And he clearly does know who's got the kid. He knows immediately where the kids are. So, like, again, he taking him to Jimmy's. He's just screwing around there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, I like the fact that Mal is basically teased through the first half. I do think if they had explained things better in the second half, that would have been better. I think, like you said, the 52 pickup scene was probably not necessary. We already know he has second sight, and that Jimmy is a fraud. You know, so if they had spent that scene where he maybe as the flashback, or explaining that he felt like he couldn't change, his visions were he couldn't change things. He saw the kids being saved by him, so he knew that he could do that. He didn't see that he could save his son John because, that's not the way the vision worked. That, I think, at that point, that would have made it stronger. A stronger
or like
episode.
He's choosing to use because he doesn't want Emma or Christine, his sister or his niece, getting killed.
Yeah.
Choosing to do it to save their lives rather than like this weird, well, I'll make Jimmy do it. Like, Jimmy doesn't have this. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's always fun to have another Jimmy scene, but
Also, if he's freakishly strong enough to pick up a headstone, pretty sure he would have shrugged off that candlestick. Right? Those things are not light. And he's using it as a battering ram.
Yeah.
And then also forgetting that he's literally going to walk in and get hit by the candlestick. And by the way, when he's down on the ground, nobody cares. There is not one moment of like, should we help him?
They're so focused on saving that screaming baby.
Yeah. It's like, oh, we're just going to step over this freakishly large man. So his sister, Emma, and her daughter, Christine, and her husband, Ben, they're very religious. Again, they sort of set up this thing as like, why is it so important to stop the baptism? It's a baptism.
Yeah.
Like the priest is like, if he wants this big symbol, he's just like, no, I'm just going to baptize this baby. And then they're still going to have the baptism in the same church.
Well, nobody was murdered in the church, so it's still fine.
Just held hostage.
Yeah.
just held hostage. That's all.
Maybe they'll go to the village over and use their church.
I'm pretty sure that church has been deconsecrated at this point. By the way, both Emma and Dr. Ransom are like, oh, it's you.
Yeah. Yeah. What are you doing here?
Usually you can only get away with that at one per episode, but no, they got two in. They snuck two in. I really liked the character of Jimmy.
Yeah.
The funny and sarcastic scammer who basically uses the giant mirror to pretend he has second sight. Although it seems to be everyone knows that he's just using the mirror, so he's just doing this to mess with the police. Which doesn't seem smart.
Yeah.
Also, I love that he beats Scott with a royal flush when they're playing a hand of poker. And Scott and Barnaby are like, does he have second sight? That's their first thought. It's like, how about he's cheating?
Yeah.
Do you know how hard it is to get a royal flush? even with that was it 7-card draw or whatever?
Texas Hold'em, I think is
Texas Hold'em.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was back when everyone was playing it because they had the poker tournaments on TV.
Yeah.
I also love that when he tells him to go see Pete polishing his candlesticks, and then he is.
Yeah.
He is literally just polishing his candlesticks.
Yeah.
but covering up a murder.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's a fun character. They could have done more with him in some ways, but he is the one he is the fraud. He's the and he knows he's a fraud. He's explaining that he can manipulate the machine just by like pushing it back a little, and so which messes with the weights and measures in the machine.
Yeah. I mean, if he had real second sight, he would have known that he shouldn't be wearing leather pants while working at a pub.
You'll never get him back on.
Nope. Nope. And then, of course, the surprisingly sweet love story of Tanner and Romany Rose. Tanner loves her. She is the palmist, and he loves her even though she already has 2 dead husbands, as he is informed by Barnaby.
Yep.
And his response, bet they died happy. I didn't need to know that, did you?
Well, Tanner's this has some fun characters in it. Yeah,
I liked and even though she is a con artist who Barnaby has told to get out of town because she has charges out for her in a number of places, she sticks around to try to help Tanner clear his name, which means she really does care about him.
Yeah.
And they have that they drive off into the sunset together and make rude gestures at the police.
Yeah.
However, they do say the word, this is a for people like they do say a certain word, gypsy, which is a slur. And it was kind of recognized as a slur when they did this episode.
Yeah.
Which was not good. Not a good look.
Well, I mean, it's a word that is very fraught and it's inaccurate. I mean, when we talk about the people, the culture that is historically been called gypsy, they are the Romani. The word has also come to mean any kind of vagrant. It's used with the Irish travelers, which, there's a whole episode on them too. And there was that show by Big Fat Gypsy Wedding, which talks about, the Irish travelers. There's a whole play called Gypsy based on.
I mean, look, it is a word that is, yes, it is a word that has been around for. I heard Barnaby say it a couple times, and I was like, ugh, cringe. You know better now, Barnaby. Be better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and she was obviously not. She was, she's just a, basic British lady who dyed her hair black and gave birth to Benedict Cumberbatch.
Corner.
He's info dumper.
Yeah, not really much for him to do, sadly. Detective work this time, as we mentioned, in an episode that has 3 suspects. Barnaby can't figure this one out. It's interesting that you comment about like sort of like this season started with the spiritualist episode, Things That Go Bump in the Night.
Yeah.
Or the dark or whatever it's called. And kind of here. So we get a season of just like, yeah, of course he's getting frustrated with all this stuff.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't believe in this.
Yeah.
But Scott's Nan did.
Yeah. Or one of his Nans did.
Yeah.
The other one didn't.
But yeah, he makes him really grumpy in this.
Yeah.
He is fed up and grumpy. And he forces Scott to go gamble away his money.
But he tells him to take it out of the fund. So, it's not Scott's, personal money. This is one of those episodes where there is an arc to Barnaby's character in it.
Yes.
Much as with the Green Man, which for me, this is kind of a lesser Green Man episode. Tom is obviously, paid by David Bradley. My favorite performance, my favorite character. I can't wait till we do that one. But it is but Mal is that same kind of character where he is an outcast. He's willingly kind of outcast himself, even though he did something very heroic, because he's afraid of what he saw in his with his second sight. And Barnaby starts off very skeptical, very snide, very rude with him. Yeah, rude. And and yet he comes around to in his interaction with Mal. he comes around. He may not completely believe in the second sight because he is, at heart, a skeptic about everything. And that is...
in this episode, he's a skeptic that learns to trust.
Yeah.
It's a very special
message. But I like, because I think Nettles does those sort of arcs very well as an actor. And I think that's why I like this episode as much as I do, even though it has some issues. I think the way he brings Barnaby around to somewhat grudgingly accept the second sight.
I mean, that's the thing, is that he doesn't solve it. He just kind of gives up and just says, like, Mal, Mal, help me.
Yeah.
Which is a rarity, because he never asks, like, he definitely doesn't ask those DIs for help.
No.
He gets a lot of comical moments, I think, in this episode.
Yeah.
Like that scene where he's just kind of rattling off, like, the never-ending to-do list for Scott.
Oh, yeah. Great. Yeah.
The back and forth pub bit, which I thought was hilarious, and also just cancel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honey, I can't make it. I gotta go.
Yeah. And John Hopkins has some great reaction shots too. Yeah. Almost Jason Hughesian.
And the bit where he explains the plot of Amadeus for some reason.
Which is actually, maybe it's a callback to the first season where they had the Hollow Man, Death of a Hollow Man, where they do perform Amadeus. Yeah.
Maybe, but it was just like, Salieri. Like, just, Scott, go find a video store if there's one still open. And Red Amadeus, it's a good time. For a guy who complains about his DIs driving all the time, he was looking at a map while driving, also on the phone.
Well, yeah. This is why he has those DIs or the DSs drive for him. His sergeants may not be the best drivers, but at least they're paying attention to the road normally.
He just does not care about the law. Barnaby enforces the law. He doesn't follow the law.
Well, he breaks and enters a lot.
And then Scott is a very fashionable guy. He knows that tie doesn't go with that shirt.
Okay, my theory on this, and it's just like this whole, I've made it's fan fiction subtext kind of thing. He knows the tie clashes. That was in his jacket pocket from the night before when he wore a different shirt, and it's his walk of shame tie.
So where did he get the other shirt from?
Well, he kind of, may have had it in his car, or maybe he ran home but forgot to grab a tie, and that was in the jacket pocket.
I'd buy that.
Yeah,
I'd buy that. He knows. Oh, does this not go with this? We've seen how you dress, man. You know. Over in the home life, this was a big sort of centric episode about the future of Cully. They make a big deal that she is going to travel to Europe to perform plays, I guess, out in the street or squares and whatnot. Go around in a van and just kind of live what I just read in Tim Curry's new memoir, what he called sort of the vagabond life of an actor. And Joyce was very worried about it. And I'm just like, Joyce, let her go.
I understand. I mean, parents will always continue to worry about their children. Yeah.
Joyce is very worried. She wants Cully to be happy. Barnaby says it's okay, and I think he just wants her out of the house. Go find someone who'll rub your feet.
No, I think he understands Cully in a way that Joyce doesn't. Joyce, and it's unusual. I mean, because there's always this whole daddy's little girl trope. Dads are very protective, and Joyce is the one that's probably a little overprotective, where Tom is the one who's saying she has to grow, she has to get out and be herself and do what she needs to do.
Does this feel like they were trying to write off Cully?
Well, I think they're setting it up for her eventual marriage and having her own life, and
well, it just felt like they were trying to write her off. Like, no, she is a grown up. She really shouldn't be hanging around her parents as much.
With her job of the week.
Yeah. But no, she's back. She's back soon. They don't really get rid of her until they marry her off.
Yeah.
And even then she comes back every once in a while.
Yeah. We never see Simon again, but we do see Cully.
And then when they're sending her off, Mal just happens to be there,
Yeah.
telling him it's going to be okay because he's looked into the future. And I'm surprised Barnaby didn't say, "That's great. Why are you near my family, you weirdo?"
I love that he does the mysterious disappearing after giving his great prophecy that she'll be okay.
Maybe he was never there.
It's all okay. Is this whole thing just a figment of Tom Barnaby's imagination? And then he
Is this a Jacob's Ladder scenario?
Is this Inception? Is this all a dream?
If it was a dream, it might make more sense.
Not my dreams.
We also get a glimpse of the Barnaby attic.
Mm-hmm.
And he pulls out this old magic kit,
Mm-hmm.
which I love. It's like, oh, you used to use this to scare Cully.
Yeah.
But also it's like, oh, performing magic. Wonder where Cully got the desire to be a performer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Joyce, you should hold your husband accountable for this. And then they make a big deal that he pulls out this deck of marked cards.
Yeah.
And it make you think like he's going to use this. He's going to use this later. Nope.
Well, that's how he knew that. That's how Max was doing the. Yeah, I mean, it was like the same with on Ghostbusters. Of course, he was just winging it.
Ghostbusters he wasn't using marked cards. He was using it to get the hot girl.
Yeah.
And then buzzing the other guy, even though the other guy actually got stuff right, and he would still buzz him.
Yeah.
Max wasn't using it to guess. No, Jimmy used the mirror to guess the cards. He didn't use trick cards.
Yeah. But it is all part of the whole, is magic, fraud? Is it a sleight of hand? Obviously Jimmy can easily cheat at poker because he's been cheating his whole life. He's the ultimate fraud. He knows
That's right, everyone. Eileen thinks magic makes you a fraudster. So she's going to come around to all these magic shows and make some citizens arrests.
Hey, no. James Randi, who was a magician, used as did Houdini, used their background in magic to expose frauds.
Well, there was a lot of frauds and that sort of stuff. But magic is fun.
Magic is fun.
Magic is fun.
Yeah, performative magic is fun.
All right. I think we kind of know our final thoughts on Second Sight, but let's just reiterate them for everyone who's still listening.
I do like this episode, and I think, like I said, I like the arc of Tom's Barnaby's character. It reminds me a lot of the Green Man, even though I think this is a lesser episode than, the Green Man is my favorite episode. But the slowly kind of seeding Mal, I did like that part of it. Where you don't know who he is. He's and he's this mysterious character. I did like that part of it. I do think a lot of it could have been explained better. I think in the second half, once they've established that Second Sight is real, they needed to have a firmer grasp on how it works and explain it a little better.
Yeah, I didn't think this is great. I don't think this is a particularly strong episode. I think that the like I said, the Mal being vague thing does not work for me. Once they actually establish Second Sight's real, they open up a whole can of worms that actually makes Mal, like, when you actually think about it for a second, it's like, oh, Mal has been incredibly selfish and bad the entire time. So I don't know. I prefer. I also am just not a big fan of like Barnaby not being able to crack this. Like, it
is unsatisfying, as we just discussed in Birds of Prey, when somebody else actually has to tell Barnaby who the murderer is. Yeah.
Again, there were 3 suspects in this, and one of them was dead by the end. So it was like, it was 2 guys. There was like only a couple of people it could be, and it was like it wouldn't have taken a lot to notice. It was like, that priest seems a little nuts.
Yeah, I don't think it's a particularly strong mystery. What I do like is when Midsomer explores the tension between religion and science and the non-Christian spiritual world, which they do in this. And I always find that those episodes for me kind of have even though I'm like Tom, I'm a total skeptic, but I seem to like those kinds of episodes. And I think there's a little bit of craziness to them that appeals to me. And I watch all those crazy UFO and crop circle shows and everything. I don't believe a word of them, but I'm ultimate skeptic. But in a fiction world, I love it.
Note to self: I need to have AI generate a photo of Eileen as that alien abductions guy with the crazy hair.
Yeah.
Or hey, listeners, if one of you wants to do it. Have fun. All right. That's everything we wanted to talk about. If you have anything you want to discuss about Second Sight or Midsomer Murders, feel free to email us at welcometomidsomer@gmail.com. If you want us to use the email in the show, please say so in that email. We're also Welcome to Midsomer on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Please follow us in all these places. And if you like what you hear, please subscribe to us or rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. That really helps people find us. Please turn on the automatic downloads to help us with the algorithm. Tell all your friends about us because that's just kind of fun. We're going to be back soon, and we hope you will join us again as we take the road out of Midsomer. We want to thank you for listening and remind you that in Midsomer, baptisms can be murder.
But only if you're a vampire.
There are vampires in this episode. Welcome to Midsomer is produced by Eric Buscher and Eileen Becker. All clips in this podcast are used in compliance with the U.S. Copyrights Act fair use exemption for criticism and commentary. Our logo and podcast art was designed by Smeedrai. Our theme music is by the infamous Space.